everyone. Welcome back to episode 42 of Talkoffamepod podcast. I'm Kylie, and today we have an amazing writer and director, Vanessa Leigh. Thanks so much for coming on, Vanessa. I'm so happy to have you on.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you on. So over the last kind of 2 years, you've kind of been stuck in isolation. So what's something that you did over the last 2 years that you really wouldn't have time to do before?
I can't really say that I like some people actually took that opportunity to learn a new skill or something like that. I can't really say that I did that in particular, but especially for that first year when we were all like really, really stuck inside and couldn't go anywhere. I actually am fortunate enough to live with my writing partner. So every morning we would wake up and we would just sit at the kitchen table across from each other and start writing because we had, ample amounts of time. We couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't do anything. We couldn't work. We're in the film industry, and at the time the entire film industry shut down. So he and I, in that year, I feel like we did in a year what had the potential to maybe take us like 3 or 4 years. Like we rewrote a bunch of scripts. We wrote a couple new scripts together. It was pretty cool to be able to sit down and like 100% focus on, that one thing that he and I happen to be super passionate about. To have that time was great. I mean, it was also like, I'm not gonna lie, it was a little depressing because like the world just stopped, but it was also like we took advantage in that way, and that was really nice.
Yeah, for sure. If it wasn't for this like kind of quarantine pandemic, I wouldn't have started this whole kind of platform and everything. Because like since the world was shut down, we weren't allowed to do anything. I was bored. I was like, what am I gonna do with myself? I can't do things we usually do. I'm sure it's basically that for everyone. Like we're always supposed to do with themselves, basically. And so I'm currently writing a book as well. I'm currently writing a book. I started like a week or two ago. I started writing. So I'm like trying to work on that, but quarantine kind of opening up, it's kind of to get a little more less of my time basically. But I kind of wish I started more earlier when things were kind of closed down and stuff. But like I'm kind of happy I'm doing it right now since COVID cases are kind of climbing back up. But like, what was kind of like the writing process kind of like for you, since you and your writing partner basically lived together and did like were in stat? Like, what was kind of like the writing process like for you to figure out things you want to write about and stuff like that?
Well, when we're typically doing something from, if it's not a rewrite and we're like thinking of new ideas, honestly, like it kind of comes down to one of us will have this concept. And I think we carefully craft like our concepts, and we typically don't just dive in right away as soon as like the light bulb goes off. Usually the light bulb goes off and we're just like, okay, how can I make this stronger? What can I link this to? Can I combine this with another idea that I've had in the past or whatever? Do I have this full-fledged concept that we're ready to sit down and write? And then we just pitch each other on ideas. And when we kind of hit that one idea where we're just like, oh, okay. And that piques our interest. And then we actually start just going back and forth and figuring out how to make that idea stronger and just like this story that we both are really excited to tell. So honestly, we just have really great brainstorming sessions. And then we sit down and we have this really great writing program that allows us to collaborate like in real time through the program itself. And we sit and we talk about scenes and we outline, and then we just start tackling different stuff. And we have a very similar sense of humor, and I think very similar writing styles. So it just works out really well.
Yeah, for sure. Like I was just talking to one of my friends a couple of days ago, kind of about writing and all those things about the book and like how the hot process is. Like when you're writing a book or for like a show or something, it's very hard to come up with what's good for the show, with what's a good fit for the writing. And it's like the main part's like inspirations, like when a thing kind of clicks. And for me, like I was talking with this to one of my friends, that like when I'm like writing something, like I don't have any ideas. So when I am not writing, ideas kind of pop in my brain. I'm not writing. Does that often like kind of happen to you, or just kind of it's always like different for you?
I think it's a little half and half. I think at first, I definitely believe in outlining. I used to never outline and I would always get stuck. So now I like to outline, even if it's just, quick little bullet points of ideas. And then I do find that as I'm writing, I am discovering like the rest of my story, or I'm thinking of another idea that wasn't in the original outline because it just happens to be better, happens to be stronger or whatever. So it's half and half for me. I feel like that happens a lot, as well as having an outline and finding, and like, I think when you have an outline, you kind of start sticking to that. And then, like you said, you kind of discover that there's other things to say and there's other viewpoints to put in there or other characters to develop, and you just kind of figure it out from there.
Yeah, that's how I am. Like, I literally have like a notebook full of pages and bullet points on like what I want to do, and every time I come out with an idea, I'm just like writing it down so I know I won't forget, because I'm a person that forgets things very easily. So I'm like, okay, this is a good idea. I need to put in a book. And it's like when you're like writing, like this, like, how do you kind of keep yourself occupied? Like, how do you keep yourself maintained when you're writing, and like when you're basically gone somewhere and you like come up with ideas? Like, how do you kind of keep yourself occupied when you come up with stuff when you're not even by your computer or like a book?
Well, I feel like there's always the classic, like, you know, you carry a notebook around with you. So if you're not near a computer, you can always write an idea down. For me, it's my phone. Honestly, I just use the little notepad in my phone when I think of an idea, or I text myself an idea so I don't forget it. But yeah, because I tend to get really good ideas when I'm driving. Yeah. And I'm not sure why that is, but I feel like stuff for me always pops up when I'm driving constantly, like when I'm driving and listening to music. My short film, actually, I got the idea for that while I was driving and while I was listening to the specific song that's in the film. So yeah, I just try to remember it as best I can until I can get home, if I happen to be in a situation where I can't, you know, write it down right then and there. But I think notebooks are definitely really handy.
Yeah, for sure. As we're kind of talking about you are a writer and director, what kind of made you want to start that, basically?
Say that one more time.
You are a writer and director. What kind of made you want to start that?
I mean, I knew I always wanted to be a writer. That was essentially when I originally moved to Los Angeles years ago, this is my second time back in LA. I moved to LA right after high school. I lived there for like 4 years. And I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be an actress. That's what I wanted to do. And then really, really quickly into moving to LA, I realized how much I loved writing, how much I loved telling stories in that way specifically. And then I gravitated away from acting and more towards writing. I moved back home to the Bay Area. That's where I'm originally from. And now that I'm back here, I've been back now for, I think, almost 3 years. And which feels like way less just because of COVID, because like, I think I was here for like 9 months and then COVID hit. But, I never had a specific timeline for when I was going to start directing. I knew it was something that I eventually wanted to do. I just didn't know when. I didn't give myself a timeline. I was like, when I feel ready, I feel ready, you know? Yeah. And when I moved back and when I wrote my short, Sam and Emma, I just felt ready to do it. And that was kind of my first step forward in that direction.
Well, for sure. Like, as you kind of mentioned about like Sam and Emma, like you got to write, direct, and act in the film. Like, what was that experience like for you to do all those things in one kind of specific film? Like, what was it like for you to do that?
I mean, acting and directing at the same time, it is a lot. Yeah. I think you have to like really trust your team and trust the people that are around you. Yeah. Because, you know, you want to do the acting side justice. So you kind of have to remove that director's cap so you can do that. And my character was basically a lead. Was in almost every scene, not quite, but almost. And yeah, it was a lot. And I will say though that I felt so incredibly fortunate to be surrounded by such a really strong team. But also my co-star, Hattie Smith, who plays Emma, was so good that when there were moments I had to focus on myself and my acting performance, you know, she was so self-reliant in that way to be able to just, I mean, first of all, our chemistry was really great on set, and we were able to just kind of like bounce off of each other and ad lib, and we worked really, really well together on set. Like, I felt like the best thing I can do when I couldn't just be there to like specifically direct her, was to give her as much as I could as an actor so she could feed off of it. And that ended up working out really well because she's just so talented that she just knew exactly what to do. But yeah, it's hard. And I'll admit, like the next one I do, I want to just step back and just strictly direct, because I want the experience of what that's like to stay behind the monitor and just focus on directing and not have to also worry about acting, because it is a lot of work. I'm really glad I did it though. And the experience was wonderful and beautiful and actually really liberating in a sense. But now that I've done it once, I kind of just want to focus on one or the other. So it taught me a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Like I was like a podcaster and basically writing, like for me, it's like very difficult because I'm either balancing doing the podcast and either balancing writing. That's like the biggest kind of part for me. I can actually relate to that. I was like, whenever I'm not doing podcasts, I'm writing a book on my free time. So I'm easily kind of focusing on both sides of the story, basically, I'll say. But like, what was kind of the hardest part about like basically balancing all of them and basically doing one or the other? Like, what was it like for you to kind of balance all those things?
I mean, I guess the hardest part was just feeling like I couldn't show up as a director as much as I wanted to. But I will say that before we ever even stepped on set, my director of photography, my producer, and my script supervisor / continuity, we all sat together, and all these guys are like some of my best friends. And we all sat together and talked about every single scene, every single shot. We basically went in incredibly like well prepared. We had 4 days to shoot, and we ended up mapping out over 100 shots. And I think if we hadn't have mapped that out, and if we hadn't have been prepared, it probably would have been a complete mess on set. But because we did all of that, honestly, it was a really, really smooth experience. Like minus just like the normal hiccups that arise every now and then on set, it was a really, really smooth experience. And it kind of allowed me to just relax a little and focus on directing when I could, and then my character when I really needed to. And I think if we hadn't have taken all that time to prep, I definitely wouldn't have been what it was, because I think, performances probably would have suffered. Quality maybe would have suffered as well. I mean, prep is just so incredibly important, but we took a lot of time because we knew we didn't have a lot of time to shoot all of this stuff. So when we walked in on set, we were just like ready to go. And then obviously with Hattie being as talented as she was, with my crew being as top-notch as they were, I mean, everybody just had a lot of trust amongst each other. Everybody trusted everybody else to do their job. And it was a really, really great experience.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have anyone that you look up to in the industry as like a writer and director, just kind of in general? Do you have anyone that you look up to?
Yeah. There are a couple show creators in television that I'm like goo goo gaga over. I really enjoy Michaela Cole's work. She did Chewing Gum and she did I May Destroy You. I think she is just phenomenally talented. I love her storytelling and the stuff that she chooses. And she puts her real life experiences into it too, which I love. I love Phoebe Waller-Bridge. She did Fleabag, and I think she was the showrunner for Killing Eve. Super talented. Issa Rae, who did Insecure. I'm a big fan of hers. And as far as film goes, I've got a couple directors that I always like get excited when something new of theirs comes out. I really like Darren Aronofsky. He did Requiem for a Dream, which is one of my favorite films. The Wrestler and Black Swan. It's funny because I feel like I tend to write more dramedies or comedies, but the stuff that I really enjoy writing always tends to be like, or watching, as far as the directors that I gravitate towards, they always tend to do really dark stuff. But I like Ari Aster. He does a lot of crazy, weird, disturbing horror. So if you're not a horror fan, definitely wouldn't recommend him to anybody. But I am so, even if I can't always connect with the story he's trying to tell, I am so fascinated by the way he chooses to tell it. And I feel like that's like true talent, to be able to like take something that, maybe topic wise, you're not really going to like, or the story, you're just kind of like, but you're just still so captivated by the way he chose to actually shoot it and tell the story. He's super talented. And I enjoy Catherine Bigelow just for who she is. I mean, she was like, first of all, she was the first woman to win an Oscar for directing, but I love that she, in a male dominated field, although I think it's getting better, there are more female directors out there, but she started off really early in a male dominated field and started to tell stories that were mostly at the time only told by men, like action flicks and stories about war. And she was like, I don't care, I'm going to do this anyways. And she's super great at it too. So I definitely admire her tenacity to tell stories that a lot of women at the time weren't telling.
Yeah, for sure. Directing is basically like, for men's perspective, like they think they own it. Like they think it's all for them, and like women don't need to take this field, this is not for them. But women, like there's more male directors, writers than more women. Like there's only like a little kind of woman percentage in directing, but it's getting better since like progress and everything. But what do you think directing wise has changed since like the pandemic hit? How much do you think it has changed?
Well, I think because with the start of COVID came the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yeah.
I think even with the Time's Up movement and the Me Too movement, I think all of these things that have been happening over the last 3, 4, 5 years, I think in general, writers and directors are slowly becoming more and more and more diverse, because they've always been there, like female writers and people of color and queer writers, like they've always existed. I just don't think that we've given them as many opportunities to shine. And now we're actually looking at these voices and saying like, oh yeah, you deserve to be here too. You deserve to tell your stories. And I love that I think we still have a long ways to go, but I love that we're starting to give minorities essentially more of a platform to tell their stories, because that's incredibly deserving, and they haven't had that for so long.
Yeah, for sure. Like, what is kind of some advice for kind of younger generation that wants to be like a writer or director one
day? I think a big one for me is, and I hate to call them like failures, but I think hanging on to your failures and having that timeline to be able to look back on to see how far you've come is really important. I have work on my laptop from years ago, and I could read it now and it totally makes me cringe because it's just old, and it's like, I'm a different writer and I've evolved, but I like to hang on to those things because it does show me how far I've come. So I think it's really great to like hang on to things, to hang on to old work, because it shows your progress. And also sometimes old work can turn into new work, a story that you're hanging on to, like for a writer specifically, but I guess for any artist, it doesn't matter whether you write or, paint or whatever it could be. Hanging on to that old work, I think can motivate new work. But I also think a big one is, and this is for anybody, like whether you're an artist or not, I think it's so incredibly important to surround yourself with people who support you and who champion your work and champion your voice and champion the way you choose to express yourself. And I think when you're younger, it can be a little harder to navigate that. And as you get older, you start to really recognize like who has your back and who is there to support you 100%. But I also think that doesn't mean surrounding yourself with people who blindly support you. And I think it means surrounding yourself with people who are also going to be honest with you. So, for example, if I'm asking for feedback on a script, I don't want somebody to tell me it's great just to placate me or because they think that's what I want to hear. I want honesty. I always want people to be honest with me because I think that honesty translates to them wanting you to be better and succeed. And so, I think just like, and then trusting yourself too. I mean, our experiences and perspectives are the only thing that we have. Trust your voice. trust the stories that you want to tell, and don't let other people come in and influence that. I mean, which can be good or bad, but like, don't let people tell you what you should be talking about. Trust that your history and your experiences and perspectives are worthy of a story, or, you know, are worthy of an opportunity. So yeah, trusting your circle, trusting yourself, and hanging on to old work so you can cry about how awful it was, but also let it motivate you because now you're better.
Yeah, for sure. Like, as I look at my past podcast episodes when I first started almost a year in April, and I just like remember this when I listened to it, I'm like, God, why did I say that? It's cringe. Like, okay, why did I post this interview? I absolutely horrible. So I totally relate on that. Like, as you grow older, like support and love from your loved ones or friends, or just in general people that like for what you do and kind of look up to you as like a person for what you do, or just kind of in general, like it's very important to get support. Like, you might not realize how much support you're getting, like you said before, when you're young. Like, that's kind of something I never realized when I was young. Like, when, like you said before, like as you grow older, you kind of realize a little more and more. That's kind of what I realized. Like, is like support. I kind of realized how much support I guys have grow on and everything.
Yeah.
So like, how do you think support and love from like your friends and family can impact like the things you're doing? So like, how do you think it can impact your work and stuff?
I mean, I think it's huge. I think having a community of people to cheer you on is absolutely huge. I'm really fortunate in the fact that I do have a really great circle of friends. I mean, so many of them are in the industry as well, so we're all kind of on the same journey. But even with family, I mean, my mom is really supportive, and I know a lot of people who try to make it in this industry who don't have supportive families, and they have to, you know, experience that toxicity all the time.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it's hard to cut off family members. They're your family. I totally get it. But at the same time, if they're not, you know, supporting your dreams and believing in you and seeing that this is something that makes you happy and it's something that you want to pursue, I mean, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do for you, you know? I mean, those people aren't worthy of seeing your journey and going through all the ups and downs with you if they can't support you through all of it. And I'm super fortunate that my family, especially my mom, is so supportive, and I have so many friends who are the same. I mean, I don't think and if I do, I blocked it out and I don't even remember it, but I don't think I really have had anybody tell me like, you can't make it, you can't do this, this is stupid, this is ridiculous. And I would run far, far away from that person if they ever said anything like that to me. So yeah, I think it's absolutely massive to have people to support you, because I think it can make or break your decision to actually pursue something. And I've seen it, unfortunately, I've seen people quit because they just had not great influences in their lives, and it's really heartbreaking. So
Yeah, for sure. Like, as I kind of grew on as a person in the industry, like we said, industry is basically a very difficult kind of place, in my opinion, to be in, for sure.
yeah.
Based on like women, diverse, and all those things. And I often got told from friends and basically random people that will text me on social media that I will check, and they'll be like, "You shouldn't be doing this. Like, women like you are not allowed to do this right now. Like, women that are doing what you're doing are not allowed to do what you're doing. Like, that's the job for men." I'm like, I immediately just blocked. I'm like, I don't care if it's a job for men. Like, there's a lot of people that do this, like podcasting, reporting, all those things. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, it's your opinion, absolutely, but I'm like, don't care. And like, based on like, I've gotten so many like support from our family and like friends and people from my friends basically in the industry that I personally know. And like, it's just mostly important. And from the support, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for support from family, friends, and people that I know in the industries. Like, that's really the most important support. And I know a lot of people don't have that. And I'm just incredibly thankful that like me and you have the support, because not a lot of people have that personally.
Right.
And so the final question for the interview is, your short film also got nominated for the 2020 Independent Short Film Awards. What was your reaction to getting nominated for the category?
Yeah, I think that was actually, believe that was one of the first festivals where it got nominated, and I think possibly won a few as well. And it was, yeah, our festival circuit was in 2020 into early 2021. And I mean, it was really exciting, but it also felt like it kind of marked the beginning of possibility for the film, because you never know how people are going to obviously respond to your film and how it's may or may not be impactful until it gets out there into the world and people start watching it. So when we started getting nominated, it was exciting. It was a relief to know that people were enjoying the project and enough to want to nominate it in whatever category it was. I mean, we had nominations for and wins for like best film and editing and directing and acting. And I think we got one maybe for cinematography. Can't remember, but it was just, yeah, it was great to get that first one and be like, okay, people are enjoying this and people like the story. And that always feels really good because you kind of pour your heart into your work, obviously, and you want people to like it. But I will say that even if that wasn't the case, never stop, because like never ever stop creating. I think that kind of outside validation, whether it's through a festival or whatever, it's a cherry on top for short films. It's always a cherry on top to be able to share your work with others and they actually like it. But never stop creating no matter what.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. So as we wrap up, I just want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It means so much. I had such a blast speaking with you. You're amazing. And keep doing what you're doing. And we'll speak soon for sure. Thanks so much.
Yeah, and good luck. Good luck with your book as well. I'm happy that you're writing it, and like, yeah, good luck. I think that's really, really exciting, and that's a massive undertaking. So good for you.
Thank you so much. It means so much. Thanks so much for coming on again. It means so much. We'll speak soon.
Okay, take care.
Thanks so much. You too.